Here we go again. Hello everyone, welcome to Challenge to Build. My name is Michael, and in today's video, we are tackling rocker panel. Driver side, 2004 Chevy Suburban 2500. Now, I don't really think there's gonna be much of a difference between the 1500s and the 2500s in regards to panel replacement, but that is what this is. As you can see behind me, I already have started doing some of the work necessary to take this thing apart. In order to get down into the quarter panel, I had to remove the front fender. So it was interesting in that removal process. I ended up finding myself a day's worth of work in wire repair up in the main harness. At some point in the vehicle's life, a mouse had come up in here and chewed a good portion of the wires in here. So I had to repair that over the last day or so. And I pretty much got that squared away, so that's just gonna kind of hang out there for now. As far as the rest of the truck, I started pulling a lot of the plastic trim moldings off of the sill plates to remove the weather stripping, pull the interior panels because we need to be able to get into drilling spot welds on the seam down in the door jambs. So that is kind of where I'm at in the process. I also went ahead and removed the forward lower quarter, actually, which is right here. So I went ahead and got involved and removed this piece of sheet metal. And if you want to see how I went about doing this, I did the same procedure on the rear quarter panels as well. So there's a video up there and you will be able to see that on how I went ahead and did that process there. So now the next step for me is to start drilling out the spot welds on the seams and underneath, and we'll see how this process goes. So let's challenge the build. So what I'm thinking on the removal of this quarter panel is I'm gonna come in here and drill out the spot welds. There's probably, I don't know, close to 20 of them just here in this flange alone, plus anything else that I find underneath. And then over here to the side, a little bit of a quick tip is it's kind of hard to see on the gray, dark gray paint. But what I was doing a couple of minutes ago is I was coming in with a Sharpie and kind of putting an X marks the spot on some of the spot welds. This way here I can just kind of locate them a little bit easier. And a few specialty tools that you're going to need to do this job a little bit more easily is definitely going to need some spot weld cutters or spot weld drill bits. There's a couple different styles and variations of these. The nice thing about this one is it's a lot smaller, so you can get into a little bit tighter location. There's a video that I'll pin right up above of a review for the two cutters that I'm using. These things are freaking amazing. I could not do the job as easily without these. These allow you to come in after you drill the spot weld out. And although they look basically like a piece of steel, they're tapered and have an edge kind of like a chisel. And what you do is you put it in the seam, as the name implies, SeamBuster. And then using a hammer, you can get in here and after you drill the spot welds, bust the seams. And let me tell you that they make life a lot easier. Now what you're watching me do is I broke out the Sawzall using a metal blade. I came in and started rough cutting the old rocker panel out to make way for the fitment of the new one. I am using the little oval cutouts from some of the plastic trim as like a starting point down here in the center pillar, and then cutting across into the flange carefully, making sure that I don't hit the weather stripping. You could probably use an angle grinder, but the reason I am using a Sawzall is just to limit the amount of sparks. So all I have left to do to get the front piece out is make one cut up here at the front and then come across here, and then this piece should drop out as well. Thankfully, it doesn't look like I've missed any of the spot welds. So when you're drilling spot welds, just take your time, be very thorough, and you shouldn't really have any problems. When I was drilling these out here, underneath, the rust, drill and rust will wear out the spot weld cutter, and I ended up breaking one of them. But the kit that I bought was a 5-piece kit, so I just put a new one on and then finished the job out. So far it really hasn't been all that difficult. I probably have about an hour, maybe an hour and a half invested in just the prep and then drilling the spot welds. And now we're at the point where we can get the material out and make some headway. So I'm gonna finish up cutting, and then we'll get involved in fitting the new rocker. And there you have it. You can see all the damage that's inside. And really, so far, it's a pretty straightforward process. Pretty cool. So now that I have the majority of the old stuff cut out, I have it kind of sitting up just for reference only. I'm going to trim the new rocker panel. The main piece that I need to trim is right here in this center section. And again, using the two pieces I cut out for reference, I am going to make a rough cut. Obviously, you don't want to cut out too much, so minimal cuts at a time, and then work your way out to where it fits, because it's way easier to cut stuff out rather than add stuff in if you make a mistake. So just looking at the references, I can see I'm going to target right down the crease. And then using the old rocker panels, I can see some reference marks. I'm going to come in a substantial amount off of those marks and start with that, and then work my way out. Now, whether or not I cut the new rocker panel to fit what's here or to cut the old to fit the new will be decided as we work through the process. So let's see here. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Hear me? Yes? I'm going to assume that you can hear me. This is Paul Michael, Challenge to Build from the future of this episode. And I am here to tell you that to make this job easier, you're going to want to remove the back door. The reason I did not remove the back door was I thought it would be a hassle, to be honest with you. I thought that I'd have to come in here and remove interior panels. I figured the bolts were behind the panel, and then I didn't want to have to remove the bolts and then worry about readjusting the door when reinstalling it. And because I am very vocal on my other forms of social media, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, I posted a video while doing this work on TikTok, and I had gotten an overwhelming response of take the back door off. It's super easy. It's 3 bolts. And it is. 3 10mm bolts, 1, and then 1 on each of the hinges, plus you unplug the harness for the back door. And I'm going to do it right now to show you how easy it is. And just like that, you then pick it up off of the pins and remove the door. And now when you do the job, you have an unobstructed working area. You can cut more of the pillar out if you need to. It doesn't really change the fitment for me. The quarter panel still fits well. You're going to find that out as you watch more of this video, but it just makes it a lot easier. and I feel kind of foolish for not even attempting it myself, but I was thinking old school doors and basically just didn't want to get involved in readjusting the door if I was to take it off. So I hope you enjoy the rest of this video. Now let's finish challenging the build. Looks like this front is pretty freaking close. Little bits at a time. Take your time, measure, put it up and down, fit. Stay calm. Remember, it's only metal. Where are we at? We're about there. That's right on the money. There's nothing. I can't see behind me. There we go. There we go. So now that I have the panel up and kind of clamped into position, I can see that it needs to kind of move back toward the back of the truck a little bit. But it's close enough for me to marker in the lines that I need to cut. So I got the front, I got the mid, I got the back. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull the rocker back out, trim the sheet metal that I need to trim. I'm going to go for trimming the sheet metal on the truck because that's where I was able to mark the line. And once I get the areas cut out, I will test fit it again and repeat the same process again and again and again until I get the fitment just right. Once the fitment is good, then it's a matter of cleaning all the edges up, cleaning the underneath inside the rocker, cleaning the rust, treating the rust, and going for final installation. So that is kind of the process moving forward, and now I'm going to get to work. Keep in mind too, depending on where you've been following along in this build process, the gas tanks are both gas tanks are out of this truck. So if you are doing this kind of repair, keep that in mind as far as sparks, welding, and flammable stuff. Obviously, regardless of the fuel tanks being in or out, there's still stuff in here that's flammable. So play it safe, make sure you have an extinguisher or some water nearby, and try to limit how much grinding and or welding you're doing. And we'll kind of touch on the welding here in a little bit once we get the fit up done. But now that all the trimming's done, I'm going to reinstall the rocker and check the fit once again. I won't be able to shut the door yet because of all the clamps. but it's looking pretty good. The new stamping rockers definitely bent a lot more crisp here in this flange where the weather stripping goes on. So I'm gonna have to need to trim a little bit more here on the inside corner, and that should allow me to slide it back just a tad, and then probably take the body hammer and try to flatten this out a little bit so that way it lines up. I'll give you a shot here in a minute. The forward lower quarter panel slid into place, so that looks pretty good. It's weldable. So you can kind of see in here, this is what I was talking about the stamping being a little bit more crisp than the factory panel. I'm not expecting perfection out of this. I will try to get it as close as I can, but you have to remember that the stampings of aftermarket parts are definitely going to vary from original. So I'm willing to kind of pivot and move a little bit with the overall fitment. I know that I'm going to be keeping this vehicle, and I'm not trying to hide anything. So I can weld that seam seal it, and then once this all goes back together, painted, I think it'll look pretty good. So one more little final trim, and then I think it's going to be time to break out the welder and get this thing kind of spot welded in. But before that, I got to get everything prepped and cleaned. So let me keep at it. So now that the prep is done basically on the truck, it's time for me to focus my attention to the rocker panel. The rocker panel, I need to take the grinder and grind down the edges to where I'm going to weld. So the back, the midsection, and then this forward section. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a 5/16 drill bit, and then I'm gonna drill at least a dozen holes along the mounting flange of where the weather stripping would go. So this way here I can spot weld it along the flange of the truck. And then also I am going to drill probably 2 holes per, I don't know, these are probably little 10-inch, 12-inch sections. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, give or take, on the bottom. So this way here I can spot weld it to the bottom of the truck as well. And then once that is complete, we'll be ready to fire the welder up and get this clamped and tack welded into position. Well, as you can see, unfortunately, I did not get the job done in one day like I had planned. A few things had come up, so I had to stop early, and now I'm picking it up the next day. One area that I wanted to bring your attention to was this area right here. In doing the rocker panel repair, depending on how bad your vehicle is, you may or may not have to repair this. Mine was really rusted out back here in this corner, so I went ahead and just took some 18 gauge sheet metal and bent up a plate to kind of bring in this flange, this lower mounting flange. I'm going to tie it in down here and then tack weld it in a few areas up through here, and then seam seal this to repair the structure in behind the rocker panel. And then the only other area that I'm going to have to replace is down here in this lower wheelhouse once I get the forward lower quarter panel in place. But I'm going to do that at a later time when I'm working down in this area anyway. So as you can see, I also have the welder set up. Everything's pretty much ready to go. I drilled all my holes in the rocker, cleaned all the flanges. Another thing that I also did in the prep is I'm going to add backing plates to the top flanges. In some of my cuts, got a little too wide when I was fitting, and not that it makes it unusable, but it also will help kind of hold the weld and give a little bit more strength into the welds in this area here on the front and up in the front rocker as well. So that's where I'm at. The plan is to finish this out today, and it's time to continue to challenging the build. Or continue challenging the build. However you want to say it. Let's just get to work. That's not a good way to start. Let's try that again. Now, before I go farther into actually putting the rocker in, I'm going to take a minute and run some seam sealer on this inner panel of the inner structure for the rocker. You're going to want to put that piece in because that's the mounting surface for the running boards. If your truck has factory installed running boards, they bolt onto the backside of the rocker. So even though you're probably going to not want to put this piece in, long term, put it in. This way here you can put your running board steps back on, and then it also will keep the majority of the junk out of the backside of the rocker. But now what I'm going to do is just seam seal it. My favorite go-to item is a little secret of mine. It's P&L brand polyurethane Loctite sealant. It's actually roof and flashing sealant, but it's polyurethane based, and I've been using it for years. It's kind of like an oddity in what I'm doing here, but it works really well. I like it. Just like so. And then I'm also going to seal it from the backside once everything is done. Quick little squeegee. And now I am finally able to install the rocker panel. A lot of the work that is done, it all boils down to the prep. Everything is like always 80% prep and 20%, you know, final work. It all takes time, and hopefully if you did your job right, in this case, hopefully I did my job right, this will go in like it's supposed to, and we'll get it fit up and get it tack welded into position. And let me tell you something, I should have did this a long time ago. Taking the door out. I should have taken the door out in the very beginning of the process, but it is what it is. Live and learn, and now I know for the next time. So I know one of the issues back here is going to be how tight this bend is in the new panel compared to the old panel. I'm not overly concerned. I'm just more concerned with this outside radius, being able to come in here and weld the flat, and then this way here I can grind that smooth, and actually it looks like it's fitting pretty good. Now it fits better. Whoa. Damn Chinesium. Well, let's try that again. Now that everything is clamped up into position, I have to just double check the bottom before I go any farther. I am a little disappointed about my fit up here with my cut. It definitely is way more open, definitely up here, more so than back here. But, I mean, with the backing plate, that's another reason why I put the backing plates in, to kind of help with that. I'm going to tack weld everything together, seam seal everything, and then once everything gets painted, and then I'm still debating on whether or not I want to put the plastic back on. I think I might use the polyurethane bed liner to spray this, the same that I used to do the front bumper and the plastics. I'm going to paint the rockers with it for sure. I might end up just painting this whole sill to give this really good protection. One thing I found out with the plastics is the plastics like to hold all the dirt and moisture in behind it. And I'm thinking maybe if I try to limit some of that, it might help prolong the life of this. But that's, you know, for another video. As far as the fit up, this looks really well fit. I'm going to need to clamp this together. Let me get underneath, double check everything, and then we'll weld it in. They all line up pretty damn good. So I can just clamp this thing together. All the spot welds will hit something. My back panel that I just put in, good. Running boards, fit. I think we are go for weld. Cheers. Well, that's how I'm going to wrap up today's episode of Challenge to Build. I got the rocker fully welded into position and started taking some time to clean up the welds. And overall, very, very satisfied with the fit and so far the finish in the areas that I am working. Hopefully this will give you a little bit of insight on what it's going to take to do a job like this. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, probably like a 7, give or take a little bit. Taking the door off was a huge help, and wish I would have done it sooner. Wish I had looked into that. I still kind of feel embarrassed about the fact that I didn't even try, but that's how it goes. And as far as fit and finish for you, obviously you can you're going to have to do some body work in the areas of where you welded, and then color match. I am actually going to have a video out soon with color matching the panels with rattle can, spray touch-up cans, and clear coat as well. So stay tuned for all that. As far as the rocker, I think what I'm going to do is use some Samurai 2-part polyurethane bed coating. I've been experimenting with this over the last couple of weeks and really like this. So I think that's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to give it kind of more of an aggressive look and keep the plastic from going back on. This way here, all dirt and moisture will run off, but I will protect it as far as paint. So I think that's how I'm going to finish this. My name is Paul Michael. This has been Challenge to Build. Now you need to go out and challenge your build. Remember, be safe, have fun, be patient, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.